Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com with a quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements for the week ending July 3rd, 2017. This is episode number 102 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week is from Smilegate regarding Lost Ark. I know everyone's excited for Lost Ark, and it looks like the game is making some progress over in South Korea. Smilegate released some additional information about the 3 new classes that they revealed last year, the Summoner, Arcana, and Destroyer, as well as showing off some changes in the upcoming closed beta test 2 in South Korea. The highlight of those changes include improved questing, a more streamlined talent and skill system, smoother animations, and a bunch of other optimizations, including balance changes. And I know this isn't exactly big news, but it does show that Lost Ark is making progress. Unfortunately, zero word on a North American release just yet, as we likely won't hear anything until after an official South Korean launch, which also has no official release date. But the hype is definitely real for this one, and I'm still glad to see it's making some progress. And next up, a bit of odd news. Machine Zone released Final Fantasy 15, a new empire this week on mobile, which is literally a reskin version of Game of War / Mobile Strike, except with Final Fantasy 15 characters and theme. And I say odd because it's literally a reskin. I mean, it's the same old pay-to-win mobile empire building strategy games that we've seen in the past. As a fan of the Final Fantasy franchise, this is definitely a bit saddening, but I can see why Square Enix partnered with Machine Zone to do this. And just to give you guys some context on the numbers, Game of War alone did about $600 million in 2015 in revenue, whereas if you combine every single Square Enix MMO, so think Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 14, and Dragon Quest X combined made about $200 million last year. So this one mobile strategy game, made about 3 times as much money as every Square Enix MMO combined. So that's the reason why this game happened. I mean, I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy, but this game is definitely not my cup of tea. Personally, I don't like these strategy games because they're too pay to win for me. But if you enjoy strategy games and like Final Fantasy 15, give it a try. Up next, in some more traditional MMORPG news, the female priest class is officially live in Dungeon Fighter Online, and it launched this last week with Act 4 Saints of the Cursed Blood update, which added the new class as well as introduced some new armor sets to the game. DFO, while not exactly huge in the West, still averages about 1,000 sort of concurrent users on Steam, and it's one of the original persistent hubs instance MMORPG games out there, and since its release back in 2005, we've seen countless games copy the exact same model, where you have these instance dungeons and persistent towns, but it works, which is why we still keep seeing more of these games. Next up, Lawtale relaunched through Papaya Play this week, and although people couldn't transfer their character data over from OG Planet, Papaya Play made the early leveling experience super fast and easy, and gave everyone some super strong welcome packages. I actually played this one on Friday, and in about 3 hours or so, I got to level 68-ish, so it's an extremely fast-paced experience early on. It almost feels like a private server of how easy it is because you get such powerful gear starting up, but given that the game's level cap is 200, it does slow down. And with the relaunch, Lawtale Papaya Play comes with a completely new update called The Call of the Goddess, which adds new level 200 plus content, new quests, new zones, monsters, and more. So despite the OG Planet shutdown, Lawtale is alive and well on Papaya Play, and although there's only one server, that one server is fairly packed, and the game seems to be doing fairly well. And moving right along, Kritika Online officially launched an open beta this week, and with it comes a whole slew of events for players to check out. Although this isn't exactly a new game and has been playable in Southeast Asia in English for over a year now, it mass moved the game from closed beta to open beta fairly quickly. I mean, from the first round of closed beta testing to open beta was a little over a month, and that's it, so it definitely moved fairly quickly. And the launch trailer in the background actually does look pretty badass, so if you like what you see, give it a try. It does play kind of like Dungeon Fighter because you do have those instance dungeons and persistent towns. And speaking of open betas, Lawbreakers began its open beta testing this week, and it's going to be running until July 5th, which is until this Wednesday. The game will be launching for realsies on August 8th for both PC and PS4, and it will be available for purchase at a $30 price tag. The open beta, though, will give everyone a chance to play it for free and decide if it's worth $30 for them. For the time being, the game's open beta seems to be going quite well as it's hitting over 5,000 concurrent users. I'm curious to see how well it'll do on launch, though, because if it doesn't get enough players early on, I think it'll go free to play. I mean, there really aren't any modern fast-paced arena shooters out there, so it does have that going for it. I mean, the only other competition is Quake Champions, but they play quite a bit different. If you like what you see in the background, give it a try. Personally, I'm going to pass on it at launch, but may buy it if it goes on sale. Up next, Marvel Heroes Omega officially launches out of open beta into full release on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Marvel Heroes has been playable for some time already on consoles, but now it's officially launched, and despite some outcry over the game's latest big update at the start of the year, Marvel Heroes remains fairly popular on the PC and has been averaging a bit over 1,200 players, which again is only the PC version. It's basically an ARPG with a boatload of classes and is actually quite fun. Just don't expect the same level of deep customization as you'd find in a game like Path of Exile. However, it does have a crazy amount of characters, I think over 60 playable characters, so that's a crap ton of classes. Also on the ARPG front, Path of Exile previewed its beta optimizations and promised increased performance. The 3.00 Wave 3 beta features both CPU and GPU optimizations, which should improve frame rate significantly and reduce stuttering. And given how many explosions and particle effects can appear on the screen at once in Path of Exile, this is definitely a much needed update. The 3.0 update, also called the Fall of Oriath, is a huge one for Path of Exile and is still set to launch sometime in mid-July. It's already in beta testing right now, but the full launch should happen soon. The game still gets over 10,000 concurrent players on Steam, making it one of the most popular free-to-play games on there. If you never played it, I say definitely check this one out. Next up, Boob and Soul launched the Iron Tech Forge dungeon in its latest update, which included a rework of the game's gem system and changes to gear. And aside from those changes, the Blade and Soul Championship Series is set to begin soon, with the North American Regional Championship set to be held at PAX West in Seattle on September 3rd. This is the first time ever North American and European players will be given a chance to participate and win their share of the 400,000 or so expected prize pool. More interestingly though, NCSoft is taking a page from the Valve playbook, and they are using crowdfunded sales to fund the game's prize pool, except actually in a more generous way, as 100% of the net proceeds from the Heart of the Golden Lotus pack will go directly into the prize pool, and 40% of net sales on the Golden Lotus chest pack will go into the prize pool. And I'm curious to see how big that prize pool will grow with player crowdfunding. Up next, Elsword announces the Hall of El update, which will mark the culmination of the El story, and with it will introduce a new endgame dungeon that isn't character restricted. Both the prologue story and endgame content requires players to be level 99 to experience though. It's a small update, but Elsword has been on point with their regularly scheduled updates. Next up, a pretty big update for Warframe. The game launched its latest update called Change of Hero this last week, which includes a pretty nice graphical overhaul to the game, as well as a new Warframe, the Hero. The update also includes a new quest chain, new enemies, new weapons, and more. The graphical overhaul is a nice touch, especially considering the game already looked quite good, but now it's going to look even better. And Warframe continues to be one of the most popular free-to-play games on Steam, with a bit over 26,000 players online at any given time, so Warframe is still killing it. Up next, Twilight Spirits from NetEase officially launched on Steam. Unfortunately, it's in Chinese though, with no English language support. I originally thought this was launching in English because we don't get too many Chinese language games here on Steam in America, but I was wrong. There are no IP blocks though, so anyone can download and play the game. The core gameplay is action-oriented, and it looks a bit like Kritika because dungeons are instanced and hubs are persistent. If you like what you see and don't mind fiddling with foreign language menus, give it a try. Next up, an update for Defiance, the sci-fi MMORPG from Tryon Worlds. The game introduced a new faction called the Ex-Inanis, which will give players loot boxes in exchange for purified Gullinate. It's a new currency in the game. Aside from the new faction, Defiance made changes to its karma system and its PvP reward structure, as well as some balance changes. The game only gets about 400 or so players online at any given time on Steam, but that's only on Steam. I'm sure some people are still playing outside of Steam. There aren't too many free-to-play sci-fi MMORPGs out there either, so if you like what you see, give it a try. Next up, AdventureQuest 3 launched an update this last week, which added the new Berserker class to the game, as well as its new randomized dungeon feature. Players can go on basically a random dungeon run with a random other player, and by doing so, they get rewards. And you'll actually have to do those dungeons, as well as do other goodies to even unlock that new Berserker class. The game is off to a fairly slow start on PC, but it does get players on mobile as well. It's one of the few cross-platform games out there that you can play on any platform, which is definitely kind of cool. Next and last bit of news is from Crowfall. The game is getting ready to launch their first full campaign test, which will give players a chance to test out the whole Crowfall package. Developers have warned though it'll likely be buggy and unbalanced, and stress that it's more of a test than a play test. But personally, I'm just happy to see that they're making good progress. Devs also showed off their new overhauled character creation menus as well. Ultimately, Crowfall is making a lot of progress, and that's always good to hear, especially because there's so much hype behind this one. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO news this week. Unfortunately, there will not be a podcast tomorrow. My brother will not be here, but he'll be back for the next podcast, so I'll see you guys then. Everyone enjoy your 4th of July. Take care, guys.